Hey guys, I'm Dan. I'm the jungler for Excel, and today I'm going to do a guide on Hecarim. I think Hecarim's really good for solo queue because he has a bit of everything. Like, he can be the engage, he can be the tank, but also he's a champion that's very scary. Like, if he gets rolling, he just one-shots everyone, and it's not like, for example, in the replay I'm about to show, the enemy team has Thresh, which is a pretty hard support for most junglers to deal with. But because of the way Hecarim's ult works, he can just ignore Thresh and one-shot the AD carry at any point. So yeah, I think he's a pretty good all-round champion and a good way to climb in solo queue. So I think you can play Hecarim in two ways. You can either choose to go with Phase Rush versus, I guess, more squishy comps, which are going to be like faster team fights. You can get in and out a bit faster. Basically, you choose Phase Rush if the enemy comp is squishy, and you need to just maybe one-shot one person and your team comp can do the rest. But I think if you're expected to do a bit more in fights, because in this game we're going to lack some damage. We have an Ivern and a Lulu. In this game I was using Conqueror page with Domination second because I had Ivern and Lulu on my team to buff me up. So if the team fights went longer, I needed to be a sustained source of damage rather than burst. So I think Hecarim can be played with both sets of runes. I think there's two choices for Mythic for Hecarim. You can go Trinity Force in some games versus squishier comps. I would say Trinity Force is best. If you're like tanking and engaging and maybe the team fight is going to be more drawn out, you can go Divine Sunderer. In this game I'm so fed already that I think Trinity Force is the best. I'm not going to get too much value from my Conqueror anymore because I'm just going to one-shot anyone I come across. Yeah, I would go in this game Trinity Force into Sterak's. I guess important to note that this is the patch before Sterak's got nerfed. In a future game I would go Death Dance instead or something else, but I think in this game it's probably best to go Trinity Force into Sterak's. Okay, so in this game we have Hecarim into Graves. This matchup is quite good for Hecarim, I would say. So basically what I have to do is in this game I have to just farm to level 6 and then it's kind of unplayable for Graves. Basically Graves' job in this game is to invade the Hecarim and try to upset him before he gets level 6 or to get a level advantage. In this game the task of Hecarim is quite straightforward, and also he needs to be farming to be strong with his enchanters. But there is one weakness of Hecarim, is that he's very susceptible to invade level 1, which we will see quite shortly, but there's a few ways to deal with that too. In this game I choose to start bot side, so I think it's going to be easier to contest the top crab, and we can see that the enemies start to invade. So the first thing I do is I go walk to my wolves to try and hit level 2, and the job of my bot lane should be to kind of annoy Graves and Aphelios and Thresh and stop them from taking the blue. So as we can see here, my bot lane is going to start poking while I'm doing the wolves, and unfortunately for Graves, the blue buff's going to reset. Meanwhile, I'm hitting level 2 off the wolves. So now we know that Graves doesn't have smite, and I do, and I have level 2. So my objective here is just to secure the blue. So I kind of go past, make a fight, and then come back and take the blue. And then this is also kind of how you can make fun of Graves. You can body block his auto attacks with your teammate, as we'll see here. So I'm just running around, making it really hard for him to kill me. And we start off the game pretty nice. We get a couple of kills. Graves is kind of out of the game already from this invade. He's level 1 and has a choice to make. He can either go to his red or to his blue and try to hit level 2. So I'm thinking that usually junglers like to go back to their red buff. It normally feels better for them to go to red when they get invaded than to blue. So I'm kind of set on my path anyway. Since 2 of my camps bot side are down, I have to go top side. And my plan here now is to try to hit level 3 as quickly as possible. Which, due to the XP I got from the kills, is just off the red buff. And I want to go invade Graves' top side. I know, worst case, I'm going to be level 3 versus level 2. We'll see that Graves shows bot side on this ward. So now I know that his top side is completely free, which is a mistake by him. So he's getting the crab, he's level 2. He won't even hit level 3 off this crab. And I'm almost halfway to level 4 already. But as we can see here, Vladimir's kind of inting on the wave, so I'm going to pick up a free kill on my way. I know I have plenty of time, because once again Graves is showing bot side. But the main objective here isn't to get this kill on top, it's to invade all this jungle. And if I get all this jungle, the game is kind of over. Like, we're already 1 level up on jungle at 3.5 minutes. And this will quickly turn into like 2-3 level lead just off of the first clear or two. So I know I probably have time to get the blue and to get the wolves before Graves arrives. And fortunately for me, we will see that the Graves is beelining for his blue, but it's already gone. But as I say, any time that this guy wants to fight me, he's going to lose. He's 1 level down. He has nothing to really work with right now. So I'm done with the wolves and I walk up to the Gromp and I just get a free kill here. But really there's nothing for him to do. I guess his better play was to go into my bot side and lose his buff. But this is how this matchup kind of gets out of control pretty quick. So with Hecarim you max Q into E. I think every Hecarim goes Q into E max second. And you skill Q, W, Q, E if you're going for full clear. And if you're playing like, I don't know, 5 camp clear, maybe you skill E at level 3. Like right now in jungle there's two kind of opening clears. You either do 5 camps into crab or 6 camps into crab. And I think you'll put 2 points into Q by level 3 if you're going for 6 camps into crab. Because you hit level 4 off the 6 camps, so you can skill E to fight. But if you're doing 5 camps into crab, you need to skill E at level 3. Otherwise, you're entering the river with no, like I guess your main combat spell is not available. So I guess it's just what pathing you choose to do, which is determined off of where does the enemy jungler start. If he's matching you, you kind of need to do, I guess, a 5 camp clear to contest the crab. Because you can't rely really on your laners having prio or playing well. In competitive, maybe you can get away with it, but I would say the rule of thumb would be you skill Q, W, E if you're doing a 5 camp clear into crab. And if you get like a good leash or the enemy jungler's pathing to the opposite side as you, you can greed the Krugs and do 6 camps. And then you can skill a bit more for farming, which is Q, W, Q, and then skill E at level 4. The goal in this game should be just to completely keep invading him. So I know that his Raptors is probably the only camp he has up. I know I left 1 wolf in the camp, top side. So I want to punish his bot side camps. Now we can see Graves is still level 2 and I'm level 5, so he really can't do anything. But my job here isn't to really kill him. My job is to get the camp, but as he decides to int for the camp, we take the free kill. And now my job for the rest of the game is just to keep living in his jungle and to prevent him from being a part of the game while my team scales up. One more important thing to note with Hecarim is that he has a different base timing compared to other junglers. Right now, if you're like Graves, you want to base on 1100 or 1300 gold, depending on if you're buying lethality or you're going for the noon quiver. And a lot of junglers right now also have the same kind of base. So it's kind of nice as Hecarim to base with 700 gold after the first clear, come out of base with Sheen and kind of be spiked when everyone else is kind of sitting on components. Like Graves will be sitting on perhaps 2 longswords and tier 1 boots, and Hecarim will have his Sheen and tier 1 boots or just his Sheen. And I think it's really good at that point to try and take a skirmish because you're going to win. Sheen is actually really strong for 700 gold. Basically here in the game now, what I'm doing is I have the timer of Graves' Raptors, and I'm just going to spend my time going back to the Raptors every single time on spawn. I know that I had 1 wolf in his wolf camp, 1 Krug in his Krug. And I'm just going to do things in the meantime to annoy their team. So here, I kind of fail a dive on Annie, but it's okay. Once again, my job is not really to get kills. I think this is something that's misunderstood about jungle. Jungler's job is not necessarily to get the kills, it's to create pressure, and right now in this meta to farm camps. So I see on the minimap there's a timer for 15 seconds for enemy Raptors. And because I'm so fed, I'm kind of greeting some camps. But I will still go there in time, and Annie's kind of already forced out, like she used her ult, she's kind of useless. And as we can see, Graves is still struggling. He's level 3, he can't really farm any camps, he has no way to get any gold. So every time I come across him, he's just dead, and I just win the camp again. I should have perhaps been on this camp a little bit earlier, because if he was, let's say, level 4, he could have maybe taken this camp before I got here, but now it's just a case of continuously being disciplined and timing the camps that I know about, and keep invading them. And it's impossible for him to play. It's not like he can even enter my opposite side of my jungle anymore and trade sides. I think he's far too weak. He'll get 1v1 by Ivern at this point. So, and since the game snowballed so hard in my favor, I'm not really too interested in taking Dragon. I think actually Dragon's going to give Graves time to breathe rather than help my team. It's not like we need to get a soul to to win this game. So as we can see, Graves is getting pretty desperate. He's still 3 levels behind and he's just hit his 5th death at 8 minutes. And one thing I need to care about at this point is if we compare me to solo lanes, I'm same level as both solo lanes, even ahead of my Alawi. So if I die, I give already 600 gold shutdown. And also, because I'm so over leveled, enemies are going to get a lot of XP. So I need to value my life as well as my job, which is to continue counter jungling. So right now it's safer to take my own camps, and then once the map states reset a bit, and Ivan slow pushing to Annie, I can now choose to gank or play for the camps. In this case I choose to gank because Graves' red could have already been gone, or that's how I felt in the game. But as you can see here, I'm back in time. The Raptors are respawning, 9:20, back on the Raptors. And this guy is just donating kills every time. He's trying to fight for the camp. I don't really know why. But at the end of the day, the kill isn't what matters. If he gets no camp, he's going to stay underleveled. But I think if you get ahead, the job should be to keep yourself ahead and to keep the enemy behind. And then, in reality, playing for dragons don't really matter. I think the main thing with Hecarim you need to be aware of is, compared to most junglers, he has pretty good item spikes. So, for example, first base, he has nice cheap Sheen base on both build orders that I suggested. I think the main thing to look out for though is, do you have your mythic item? If you get your mythic item, it's a big power spike for Hecarim. And the main thing to think about is, do I need to engage in a way where I'm peeling for my carry because I'm not strong enough to one-shot the enemy AD carry or mid laner, or whoever's the main threat on their team? Or do I actually have the damage to CC people as well as one-shot somebody? I think it actually changes a lot how you would want to play out a team fight or even a skirmish. And that's like the good thing about Hecarim is that you have this choice. You can either dive into the backline and be really scary for the enemy team. Like in this game, I think normally Aphelios would feel pretty safe with the Thresh on his team. But in reality, I can just ignore the Thresh and one-shot the Aphelios. And even if I'm, let's say, not so fed in this game and I'm even, but I'm like maybe 1 level behind solo laners, I can still one-shot this Aphelios at any time that I want. Yeah, I just think it's important to know, can I one-shot this guy or can't I? And then you decide how to play the fight. I think for Hecarim to fall behind is the most punishing thing. Like, this is one of the downsides of the champion. I guess your main job at that point would be to either farm up and get to a point where you are actually strong, or find some skirmishes where your team outnumbers, because when Hecarim's ahead, he counts as more than 1 champion, but when he's behind, he's like half a champion unless he hits like a really good ult and his carries are actually strong enough to help him out. Usually Hecarim's relied upon as a bit more of a carry source, so normally you don't have that luxury that somebody else can carry you through a bad early game or a bad mid game. So I would say in this game I played a bit too much for the enemy camp at this point. I think right now the game is kind of over. We can just put Herald mid and dive mid, but I was kind of experimenting how much level lead I could get over this guy, because already it's 5 levels, which is pretty unheard of at 18 minutes. And I was just trying to see how much farming could punish someone rather than ending the game. So maybe I'm having a bit too much fun in this game or experimenting a bit too much. So I wouldn't recommend doing this. Right now, if you want to end the game fast, I would say with this comp, Ilawi can play on side lane and we can just go 4 mid, put the Herald and probably dive the enemies, or even just go 5 mid and dive the enemies. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing what I'm doing for the next 5 minutes. I'm playing a bit selfish, a bit extra for camp. But like right here, I'm so fed I can just flank the fight, kind of be 1v4 and still not die. But right now it's just about limit testing and seeing what I can do, so I can learn something for future games and maybe see how in a competitive game to get a bigger advantage. I think it's a good rule of thumb, like obviously in a lot of games you cannot just tower dive people and just end the game on the spot when you want to. So actually like now all the tier 1 towers are down for the enemy team. Playing for their camps is actually like a realistic and good thing to do. In my opinion, it's worth more than taking or trying to siege a tier 2. Like I'm taking gold essentially out of Graves' pocket and put it into mine, and the game for him is completely unplayable. He gets nothing every single time. Like in this game, he's 140 CS down at 23 minutes, and there's not too much he can do. But also I think the way of playing this way meant that there was no way for my team or me to throw the game. Like I just remained so far ahead, and there wasn't anything Graves could do if I went to tower dive and and fight, it was perhaps like a mistake that could have been made, and maybe he would catch back up, because I think he gets, if I die right now, I think he gets like 1 whole level or something, and I also get 700 gold shut down. Right now the matchups are changing a lot because the items are getting changed and the champions are getting changed, but the Hecarim Graves matchup should be good for Hecarim in most cases, unless Graves has a lot of pryos and can come into Hecarim's jungle and fight him. Other common matchups you'll see is Lilia into Hecarim. I think this is a pretty good matchup for Lilia actually. She can destroy Hecarim at level 1 pretty easily because she can just steal the raptors. Mainly it just depends, like, can Hecarim get past level 1 in the matchup? If he can't, then it's probably a sad game for him. If he can get past level 1, then it's probably a good game for him. The only exception to this rule is probably maybe the Olaf matchup, where it's slightly in Olaf's favour. And then there's like matchups that are completely unplayable. I think like the Udyr matchup, Hecarim loses in every aspect. He loses at level 1 power, a clear speed, tankiness, dueling. Like Udyr wins every aspect. So I would say you want to play Hecarim into Graves, Lilia perhaps into Kindred, like more squishy champions, and try to avoid playing him into bruisers because he generally loses into bruisers. So there's actually a lot of places to pick him. It's just, I wouldn't pick him necessarily for the jungle matchup though. I'd pick him more if you can get away with him and it looks like a good game that you can carry. So for me it's more about what champions do the enemy team have. And if your team has enchanters, I think Hecarim's a great pick because he can frontline and carry at the same time. The main thing to do with Hecarim is to make sure you have good XP in terms of the game. I think it's really bad if you spend your time ganking or trying to block the enemy jungler from doing things, because as with Hecarim you want to be like at the average level of the game or above the average level. That's where this champ excels, and that's also where a lot of junglers excel right now, just by the way the meta works. So your job should be to be a bit selfish. I would also say in games where you have like enchanter supports, you can choose to kill steal a bit, but really just be selfish, look for your own experience leads. Be very careful, I would say, when picking Hecarim, to make sure your team has good enough level 1 to defend or fight and invade, because maybe in lower elo games you won't see this, that you get invaded because people don't really know what they're doing as much. But as soon as you hit like Diamond 1 or Master Tier, people are smart enough to know Hecarim's real weakness is to get invaded at level 1. But yeah, I would say farm a lot, steal kills. His item spikes are more important to him than on a lot of other champions. Like some champions will find a nice little spike. For Hecarim, when you finish Sunderer or Trinity Force, you get really huge spikes. And also old Sterax, when you got that as second item, you suddenly become pretty much unkillable in a lot of games. So I think playing around his items and around his levels is extremely important compared to other champions. Thank you for watching my Hecarim guide. I hope you liked it, and see you next time.